This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tangents.
Hi.
We've got some guests to make absolute chaos here today, and it's going to be fun.
I'm feeling especially chaotic, so hold on to your butts.
Yes, we are
I
joined
can't
today
wait.
by Tar Valon After Dark, which is, of course, Jess, Recappa, and Nablus. And Seth and I are popping out of our brief hiatus for a minute to record before we go back into hibernation till SpoilerCon. And yeah, we're here to talk about A Crown of Tangents, because that is what we do between books, is do tangents. But we do probably have to spend a couple of minutes talking about the fact that the show is happening.
What show?
I don't know. I mean, I saw some ads or whatever. I don't know. Actually, I haven't seen ads.
You heard about something. I've heard about the show. I can't wait till the trailer drops.
Is there a new season of like RuPaul's Drag Race or something out? Is that what you guys are talking about?
Yeah.
No, anyway, so well, let's just stick with Crown of Swords. That's really the only interesting thing that's happened over the last year or so. That's really it.
I was going to say, if Nabes knows about Drag Race, we've been wasting conversations, but I don't think he does.
Look, I've watched half a season. Okay, so
we're going
I
to
need
talk
to start
about this on our next pod, because what the hell? But yeah, okay. Tangents, Crown of Tangents.
Yes, Crown.
You asked for it.
You want chaos, you got it.
Oh, yeah, so much chaos. But yeah, I kind of actually was going to bring a little more order to this than prior tangent episodes, which is to actually work through the major story beats of the book rather than literally just talking about anything for 2 hours like we have prior. I'm sure we'll be all over this because that's what we do. Crown of Swords, book 7, Bodybuilder Rand on the Daryl K. Sweet cover, as you can see behind Seth. Because this is the Shadar Logoth book. Well, one of the Shadar Logoth books. There's like 3 books of Shadar Logoth. Right after Dumai's Wells. That's where this one starts. Right after Dumai's Wells, we kind of get to see it again. We get to see it from the Shido's perspective. We see like Rand's immediate mental explosion in the aftermath of that. And then, of course, he immediately goes to Kyrian and deposes Colaver, and all of that happens. That's like how the book opens.
And as I call it, it's somewhat the book of bad touch. Right. There's just a lot of people being touched in ways or thinking they're touching in ways that are not okay. There's not a lot of there's a lot of exploration of different types of consent in this book from start to finish, whether it's Rand.
Is this Tylan?
This is Tylan.
Yeah.
This is Rand being convinced that he raped Min.
Yeah.
So it's the mind traps.
The mind traps.
Well, let's not wait. We can't pretend mind traps not awesome. So let's not include that in all of this, because mind traps awesome. So let's disclude that. But I hear what's being said.
Well, the fade that goes along with the mind trap is a bit of a problem. And then you've got more gays involved as well. Yeah, there's just a lot of scenes where people are dealing with consent, and so it's just I one of the reasons I bring it up is because that's one of the topics and themes of the conversation we kept having over and over and over again during the course of this book. Is just how often consent came up, whether it's enthusiastic consent from Min that was mistaken, or complete non-consent from Matt that was also mistaken.
Well, I don't think that was mistaken. She knew exactly what she was doing, but
Sure.
That's just.
Well, I mean, and not to get into that subject because it's always one that I think we probably all agree on. But like, I think Robert Jordan's mindset in writing that is that was cultural and just kind of tongue in cheek, and I don't think it came across that. So,
Well, my understanding is that, and I think that Harriet confirmed this, that a whole plot line was written the way that it was because they wanted to draw attention to the fact that sexual assault can happen to men. And they thought that the best way to do that would be by making it funny. And I respect the fact that what they were trying to do with the execution was bad.
It aged very badly.
I mean, is that rewriting the past if Harriet said that?
Yeah. I read something that said Robert Jordan's intention was to draw attention to the fact that this doesn't just happen to women. And I will be frank with everyone, it made me angry because I was like, that is an excuse for a poorly written piece that, was not sensitive to people who have been through this. And for me, it was like, you said that because you needed to say something. That is, if you read it, clearly not how it's written. People are laughing at Matt, and it's clearly not intended to draw attention to the fact that this is such a hard thing for men too. That is not how it's written.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, not to dive into all of this, Crown of Tangents, but for this particular issue, I have heard a lot of people say on the show, they're really hoping that this gets fixed. And for me personally, I'm like, just cut it. Just cut it. We don't need it anyway, because we're Crown of Tangents. So I feel like I can go into this a little, but that's how I feel. Because I have heard the argument, Jess, like you said, I read, I think, the same piece that says the intention was to show that this can happen to men. And I'm like, well, then why is it written the way it's written, where people are laughing at it?
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
But at the same time,
I've never considered the possibility that was like a potentially an excuse that came after the fact. But
no,
maybe
of course.
I know.
I know that's not what you're saying. I just like, for me, when I'm saying, because I think I read the same thing you read, where it's like the intention was, to show. And I was like, well, that's not what you did. So I when reading that, I felt upset.
Being devil's advocate. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'd say, but at the same time, like Seth and I have discovered, this book is full of discussion of bad touch. It's like, how could you not know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm agreeing. Like, it does feel like retconning the rationale. Like, there's a lot of assault and bad touch in this book. You know what that is.
Okay. I don't actually believe what I'm about to say, but if you know me, this is what I do. I'm devil's advocate. Okay. Does it not demonstrate how people aren't believed when they say that they've been like Matt is laughed at? Like, is that not indicative of actually what happens?
I'm just throwing it out there. I know what you're saying, but my argument is no, because of how people respond. Because there is no character who gives even of maybe this isn't the right way to act. It is just them laughing at him, because as far as the books go, it serves him right. That's what it feels like in the books. That's what they're written. I mean, it feels like, oh, everyone's laughing because Matt's getting a taste of his own medicine, when it's like, that is not what is going on here.
I don't think that Matt's medicine is going around sexually assaulting people.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, is like, they laugh at him like it is. And I'm like, that's not the same. We're getting into conversation of sexual assault. I mean, hey, Crown of Tangents again, right off the bat. But for me, this particular issue is like, there is a canon excuse that says we did it this way because we wanted people to realize that men go through this too. And when I read the books, I do not buy that. That's what I'm saying.
I agree with Brian as far as what Nabe said. Like, if it were supposed to be illustrating the fact that this happens to men, there would have been somebody who would have responded to him with empathy and told him what this actually was, because he obviously didn't know. Because if you want the audience to respond in such a way saying, oh shit, this happens to men, like the first time that I read it, I did not consider it to be assault. It didn't even occur to me, never even occurred to me. And if there had been an empathy, like somebody showing him empathy and pointing out what it was that happened to help him with his confusion, that would have turned the light bulb on. So, I don't buy.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Do you really not agree with it, or do you not agree with it on point of like?
No, I'm not sure I agree with it.
As a thought exercise.
Not as a thought exercise, because I don't think in situations of like this that there's always a somebody being empathetic, because I think they're not empathetic to Matt because of a perception of him being this rogue. Now, where I think they could have written it differently if they wanted to keep it where nobody believed him, is that the impact was felt or it was stated somewhere else, right? As in, like, Matt thought about it once. So it made it seem like Robert Jordan wasn't trying to make light of it, but that it was just crafty writing of this is something really bad that happened to somebody and nobody acknowledged it or believed it, right? Because that would be realistic, but I don't think that we laugh it off like the trauma wasn't real, right? That's, I think, where the mistake is that it's laughed off even by Matt at a certain point, right? And if it was just written in a way where that trauma felt legitimate, I don't think it matters whether anybody believed him or not for it to be an accurate portrayal. That's, I guess, what.
And I have to bring up 2 points that I feel like I discovered just through doing the podcast. One, Elaine does laugh at him, and Nynaeve do, but they do, in fact, turn around and go, oh, we realize that's a problem, and they do talk to Tylan. Tylan ignores the fuck out of him, and then they have to run.
Mm-hmm.
but they do make an effort, and they do have a turnaround. And second, Matt is extremely traumatized. He's denying it, but he is actually, we discovered a massive amount of trauma over the course of this book that he is, denying, but absolutely suffering from after the Thailand thing. That is written into the book. Both of those things are true. It's not obvious and it's not very well portrayed, but it is there.
I agree with you. I will push back on Elaine's reaction a little bit because she can't get through telling Matt that it was very bad of Thailand without stopping to laugh. And for me, it's like she says that was very bad of Thailand, and then she turns away and laughs. And for me, I mean, it stands out to me. That is her general. Maybe I'm not quoting the book verbatim, but I remember Elaine giggling to herself. And I honestly think early on, it was a part of why I just couldn't get behind Elaine, because it was like, why is this funny to you? Like, why is this funny to Elaine?
And
she should know better.
After that point. She does apologize after that point.
Yeah, she does apologize briefly, but she does.
Yeah.
So it's that whole like first thought versus second action kind of thing where it's like,
I mean, to me, it's the more like if she gave a memorable apology, I'd feel differently. But it's the fact that her reaction was to laugh. And then maybe later she says something, oh, my bad. But I don't remember that in the scope of the books. Yeah. I think if she had said, hey, Matt, that was really wrong of me to laugh at you, I would feel differently about the argument that this was written to show us that this happens to men too. But the fact that she giggles it off and then, maybe I honestly don't remember the apology, but the fact that I don't is like, I needed more. If you're going to make the argument that this was done to show us something.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say the last thing, like it feels like it's supposed to be funny because it's Matt's.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't even remember that she apologized until we did the pod and we're going through it line by line. Right. And that was when I was like, oh, she does apologize. Huh.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah. It's so brief.
Because she does say, I shouldn't have laughed. Like she says it, but it goes by like that. So.
I don't remember, but that's good to know that she does.
Yeah. No, and we had to do the podcast and go through line by line to discover both of those facts. Like we really did. Like it was, one of the things that I really like about doing this is like, oh, that's a retrospective where it really did change my mind. Not entirely off, but a little bit about Elaine. Not about Thailand or any of that, but it changed my mind a little bit about what Elaine and Nynaeve did and how they reacted, because I completely missed their flip-flop and their turnaround. It makes me respect them a little bit more. Now, they eventually, like the next morning, had to flee with Kin and the Bowl of the Winds.
So the situation gets kind of truncated with.
So they don't never get a chance to follow up. And then Matt is pinned under a wall for 4 years. So let's get off this topic. Because like we can cut it out.
Seth's like, please God.
Oh, I hope it doesn't come up as much in the next book.
Not until we get back to Matt. But anyhow,
not until we get back to Matt. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do we have any thoughts on Cadsuane and the whole Kyrianan situation?
Cadsuane first appears in Lord of Chaos. Is that correct?
No,
she shows up in this book.
This is the book she shows up in.
So then that changes what I was going to say, because I was going to say Moiraine leaves us at the end of Fires of Heaven. We have this time without her.
A chaotic time.
But when Cadsuane shows up, Cadsuane gets all this hate, and I understand it. But I also think she's just not Moiraine. She's not Moiraine.
Yeah.
And there's, she is written in a way where it's like, this is your new Moiraine. And there's no way a reader is going to get behind Cadsuane the way they get behind Moiraine. That's how I feel about her when she first shows up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I got behind Cadsuane. I liked her. I was like, okay, you know what? She is not fucking around. She's like, okay, this guy is fucking the head and we need to do something about this. Like, she goes with the purpose of helping him find his humanity again. Does she execute poorly? Yeah, she didn't do super great. But, the fact that she just came in out of like retirement where people literally didn't know where the fuck she was, or even if she was still alive, and she comes out like, I'm here, bitches. Let's fix this mofo. Like, I don't know. I liked her attitude. and her hair thing.
So
The hair thing is cool.
I love Cat Swain, actually. I think she's actually a great character.
I don't like the hate she gets.
She epitomizes, in my opinion, like of the modern Aes Sedai of the story. She is like the pinnacle of what they achieved to be, right? Like, and I think she's a badass in a lot of ways. Here's my issue. Nobody attempted, and even Moraine attempted to help Rand by helping Rand and by gaining his trust. They all tried to manipulate. And like even Moraine did it. Like Moraine was trying to manipulate. And he would have listened had he trusted it. Like, it's the first rule of any type of leadership. Like, you want to gain trust. And that's my only issue with Cadsuane. Like, I understand why she approached it the way she did. He was used to everybody bowing down to him, and she was showing him she wasn't going to do that, right? She ignores him the first time she meets him and stuff like that. Like, I like that and it's cool, but it's just like at the end of the day, she failed, in my opinion, because nobody tried to gain Rand's trust. Nobody. Min is the only one who really did. Min is about the only one who never manipulated.
Yeah.
Nynaeve manipulates him, but she's so bad at it. She's just like, I need you to protect land now. And he's like, okay, you're manipulating me. Great. Yeah.
Right. But she also cares about Rand, not the Dragon Reborn, which is what all the other Aes Sedai, they see him as a Dragon Reborn. She's like, I saw you as Rand and cared about you long before I became Aes Sedai. So she's in a different category, really.
Yeah. I honestly think the end of Lord of Chaos is such a turning point because, like you said, Aradia, they're no longer looking at this as a person. They put him in a box and tried to carry him away, because he's not a person, he's the Dragon Reborn, and they need him. So with this book, it's interesting, like, he escaped from that situation, and now people either have to accept him as a person or as this thing.
I just had a thought.
Yeah.
All objects of the power belong to the White Tower. And the Dragon Reborn is an object of the power.
And so they think of him as an object.
They put him in a box and take him to stash him in the basement.
To them, he's an object. Yeah, God, I really think
I think the whole manipulation thing too just points to like the collective failing of the Aes Sedai as a society. They're so used to people capitulating and respecting their authority. They don't know how to deal with people like on a real personal level. They are very poor with interpersonal relationships for the most part, because, you know, even inside the tower, it's not a safe place. People are, you know, there's machination going. People are, you know, they're in factions, and this Aja doesn't get along with this other Aja, and there's always shit going on. They don't know how to like relate to a normal human being. So, you know, I think that's just,
well,
and I'm talking as a collective. There are individuals, obviously, who are different, but as a collective, it's a failing. And you see it a lot with a lot of the Aes Sedai who deal with him.
I think you see this play out in Nynaeve's, not to get into a different book, but Nynaeve's character plays this out because the title Aes Sedai means servants of all, and they are in no way, shape, or form servant. Like, they don't serve anybody. They serve them. And yes, they may have good intentions sometimes, like peace in the world, whatever, but like, it's done through their agenda and not actually serving people. And Nynaeve's whole push at the end of the books is, why would I walk slowly and maintain dignity if it meant letting people die? Right? Like that whole thing. And it's just stupid. Like, why are we focusing on we're servants. I'm here to help. Which, by the way, it's funny that Nynaeve has that, because Nynaeve treats people like crap half the book. But
you
know what? Nynaeve's funny. If you ever,
she treats people poorly a lot of the time, but it's a surface level thing. She is fiercely loyal. She will do a murder for the people that she loves, and she has empathy for other people, even when she doesn't know them. Like when they found that wounded Aiel, like by the river or whatever. Yeah, that whole thing, like, you know, she's like, no, I'm going to help this person because this is what I do and it's the right thing to do, and they're a person, and that's what you do with people. So, you know, she's got a barbed tongue, but, you know, she's got a good heart.
Yeah, it's the not treating service workers well that kind of bugs me a little bit about her. I'm like, do you really have to berate everybody who's helping you? Is that really, you're just making everybody's day? And, you know, I give her some excuse because in the first half of the series, she's deliberately trying to make herself angry all the time. So, you're always in a bad mood. I get that. But, you know, at the same time, it is a weakness of hers. Like, I wish she was nicer to people because, like, it doesn't cost her anything.
We talked about this in our last episode where it was like, if Nynaeve threw fewer tantrums, and it's not to say Nynaeve is, a lunatic. It's just saying, like, if you take into stock what's in the books, if on the show Nynaeve were to lash out fewer times, we could see it every once in a while, it would make her better at what she's doing. It would make her a better wisdom, a better person at portraying that, like, I know what I'm doing. She lashes out in the books in certain moments where it's like, all right, we didn't need to see that from you. But
that's not the point, though. The point of it is that she does that because it's her in speaking.
But
and I think that's so integral to her character arc. That's the point I was making. But
I just want to say that, like, I hope she lashes out less on the show, because I don't think it changes Nynaeve as a character. I think it makes her smarter. So that's what I'm.
You want to know what I
want
to see? I want to see Nynaeve lose her temper, and I want there to be a reason for it. Because a lot of times in the books, she's snapping, and there doesn't seem to be a reason. When you're showing in a show, like, we can show she's soaking wet and she's exhausted, and this is why she's snapping. She's, things are happening, and I think that can be portrayed better in the show so that we see there's a catalyst for it, whether it's right for her to do it or not. At least we know why.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I get that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the show in Crown of Swords a little bit. What parts of Crown of Swords do you think are going to make it into the show, and what is not? Like, do you think Colliver is going to make it? Everyone's like, no, hell no. Do you think the whole battle? Well, Brian, you look like you want to say something.
It's just such an interesting question, because, like, Colliver is a good one where if you look at the books, it feels like important in its way, right. But if I'm looking at what you cut from the show, absolutely Colliver. Who wants to watch Colliver on TV? I have issues with how all three of Rand's women get together with him the first time. I think in all three cases, it's a little messed up in certain ways, but I would rather have Min and Rand get together under, they've been through so much together. So it would make more sense for me if, like, it came out of Dumai's Wells than if it came out of Colliver hanging herself in a subplot that doesn't matter much to me.
It was a 1-2 with Colliver, Herod fell.
Yeah.
The only way
the Herod fell thing.
I think Colliver only makes sense to put in the show if they want to ramp up the political drama. If they want to pull that into the show, that would be one reason to do it, because that is political drama. She tries to essentially stage a coup with the Aes Sedai. Number two, it depends on if they're going to play up this toxic masculinity in Rand that he can't let women die. Because Colliver is one of the prime examples of a woman that he feels responsible for killing. If they don't want to do that, and I would understand that if they didn't want to do that, which I would actually love if they didn't do that, then yeah, I think that makes sense to cut. I think there's other ways they can ramp up the politics other than that. But I think that's about
if they want to make him tortured about the people who have died, under his watch, so to speak, like, make it like everybody. Like, not every single person, like, you can't count every single person, but, like, the people he knows personally, the people that he feels like he could have saved, regardless of what their gender is. Like, it doesn't have, like, don't just do women.
It doesn't have to be gendered.
I think that, yeah, it doesn't have to be gendered. I think that being tortured by the fact that these people died for him, I think is, in a lot of ways, an essential component to, like, his personality and his character. So I feel like maybe something would be, because I feel like that points to, like, this strand, this hair of humanity that's left of him. Like, one little thing that keeps him connected to the rest of the world is the fact that he's devastated that these people died in his, like, basically following him and serving him, and he hates it. And, so if they did it in a non-gendered way, I think that it could be really well done. But I agree, it should not just be women.
So that's a central part of the last battle with him, with the Dark One. He lets go of all of that. Everybody, not just the women. He lets go of the women first, but then it has to be everybody. So there is precedent for that.
The lens I think we have to be careful of as fans that, again, all 5 of us agree here. This is not, I just think it's one thing to be careful of when analyzing literature is to impose, like, Rand doesn't need to be a good person for this. Does that make sense? Like, I don't need Rand to not be toxically masculine, right? Like, that can be there for in him still be super screwed up and flawed. Like, I don't want to project my morality onto the way I expect the characters to act, or I'll be offended at the show. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think that I think if anything, it calls attention to how stupid that is.
Going off what Jess said, the fact that Kolevir is even on his list, it's sort of, again, a turning point for Rand's list, because it's like, come on, dude. She stole this throne. She lied about it. Then you came in and called her out, and she killed herself. And I'm not making light of the fact that she killed herself, but when Rand makes this list of people that died for him, some of these people actually died for him, and Kolavir's also on the list.
Yeah,
and
she died for her own pride.
Yeah, and it takes away from the seriousness of Rand's list. The fact that Kolevir is even there, it's like, look, I'm not minimizing her suicide. I'm not saying that that's not a dark moment and that, all of that. But as far as Rand compositing a list of people who have died for him, when her name is near the top, it's like, okay, but let's stop and think about what you're making a list of. And I honestly think if they were to cut it, it makes Rand's suffering more real, because the people he's thinking about actually died for him. I think that
Fell makes way more sense on that list, because Harry Fell was straight up
or
assassinated.
Leia, yes, someone like that. Yeah, people who die, and the list. I think of Arya. But the list doesn't have to be 20 names. It can be 6. And they can be moments on the show that we remember. So when it comes to thinking of Kolevir as someone who died for him, I just don't think that's a strong choice.
He even has like a dark friend woman on it, like that tried to kill him.
A nameless dark
friend. He killed her back, and it's like, she died.
Right.
For me. It's like,
did she know?
You're right. On the show, I would love for a more succinct list that actually lists people we've seen die for Rand.
Agree with that.
So speaking of things we could cut, Perrin and Fael and Berylane head off to meet with Massima. That is a whole arc that I don't think has a lot of point. Do you think we're going to see Massima?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll tell you why. I think Massima represents something that is very real in society.
Yeah, they're called the White Cloaks.
Zealotry. Yeah.
Well, I don't know that because he's a little bit more chaotic than White. And there is he's a cult. I mean, he's the leader of a cult. That's what he is. He's the leader of a cult. That's what Massima is. And it's the cult of Massima. Now, here's the other part. The hard part, if you cut that, you'd have to come up. There's a whole lot of collateral damage in the plot if you remove that, because that begins like 3 other arcs. And if you don't do that, you need to figure out something for Perrin to be doing. Okay, like there's a lot of character development for other characters. Fael, some of Fael's best development comes from the shite, like all the rest of the arcs that are involved with it.
I love that she kills his ass. I love that she kills
that part is amazing.
So I think it could be. I think it could be combined and shortened and maybe added to. But I think there's actually a story to tell. And there's certain things I think that will come across better on the screen than will on the page. And I think that's one of the things that
I think I tend to agree with you. Having a quote unquote prophet like that it's a way of illustrating like the kind of influence just even the idea of a person like this can have. And, like Nate said, it is applicable to society now as well as at other times. The masses following a golden-throated leader, or, not golden-throated as the case may be. And, the things that can result from that. I feel like they would need to expand the stuff that Massima and his band of misfits do, though, in order to sort of better illustrate sort of the impact of blindly following somebody who says that they're doing it for the glory of this guy, but is actually doing it for the glory of themselves.
Yeah, you would need more than one or 2 set pieces for that. Just show them killing some villagers who won't swear, and you set them up as the bad guys.
Which also hypes up Dragonsworn in general as a hazard. They're just on the periphery the whole time, so you could make him more of a leader of the Dragonsworn rather than just a subset of the Dragonsworn.
I also like that it kind of sets up what I think could be a cool plot moment. I love the part where Perrin, and I cannot remember if this is in Crown of Swords. I think it is. Yeah, it is. Where he basically rounds up the Prophet's men and is like, hang him. And he's
that's in
like,
the
you
next
don't
book,
know
I
who
think.
I am. I'm
I
the
think it's in the
prophet.
next book.
That's next this book.
I think it's next
Yeah,
book.
Okay.
yeah. This one he's just sent off. He
That's
doesn't.
right,
We don't
he
And
doesn't
actually
Massima's
get
not
there.
in this book. It's just the beginning of that.
I
whole
forgot.
arc.
Yes. But I like that. It sets up that moment. So if we're on that plot thread, like I actually think that's kind of a cool moment where Perrin is like, no. We're done with this dumbass shit. And, like moving on. So
I just want to say, I hear what everyone's saying about Massima, and I disagree hard because there is truly nothing in this story that gets explored through Massima that can't be explored through the White Cloaks. And I disagree that it's important to Perrin's story because eventually Perrin's story becomes the White Cloak story anyway. So if I were adapting this for television, the first thing I would cut and combine would be Massima. I'd be like, everything that happens in the story, make it happen in the White Cloak story. It's all connected to Perrin anyway. And it honestly, and I love, this is what spoilers so I can say, I love it when Fael kills Massima. It's her second best moment, but it's not worth it. We don't need it. She could kill Child Bayar for all I care as far as how the story works out. It does not matter. There are so many fanatics in this story. The idea that we need Massima on top of the White Cloaks does not make sense to me. And if I'm adapting this for television, cut all of Massima, cut all of the Dragonsworn, make it all the White Cloak plot. It's the same thing, but one is a little more interesting. That's how I feel.
I mean, I think you make a fair point.
I can get behind that. I don't care about the Massima arc, although I do like I like the person fanatically following something. And yes, I think the White Cloaks and Massima play two different roles though, but I don't know that they have to be explored. That being said, whatever it is, there has to be an impetus for Perrin to leave with all the armies and go down there and get captured by the Shaido. Like there has to be something that causes. That's all.
Right.
That's what I meant by
come up with something.
Totally, I hear that. Yeah,
I don't feel like Massima actually plays a role in Perrin's arc. It's what that begins.
Right, where he has to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much more room to explore like religious zealotry that like the White Cloaks and Massima both like poke at it with a very blunt stick and then back away. And it's like, yeah, combine them and make that stick sharper, and we could have a much more interesting conversation about the role of religious zealotry in apocalypse and nihilism and saviorism.
The only thing I like though about Massima is I do think it misses the chance to do the individual commentary on one person being the, call it charismatic, call it whatever, but the illogical yet dogmatic leader, right? That his dogma actually changes to suit the moment. Whereas I feel like the White Cloaks, on the other hand, are a group that follows a dogma, that the group actually has an arc through the story, kind of led by Galad. I mean, the only argument I can give is I think that Massima is a little bit more reflective of certain demagogues in our current political landscape.
You can say Trump.
Yeah, I can. And I don't feel like you have an equivalent, because I don't feel like you can say Trump is a White Cloak. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't think those two types of dogma are the same. So if I was going to make an argument to keep Massima, that would be the argument, is that it's a little different type of fanaticism.
The White Cloaks are lawful.
Yeah.
For the most part. Massima's chaotic. Big time.
You could make Massima a disaffected White Cloak.
If
that was
Massima,
one thing that I was thinking.
I like that. I was going to throw out, though, if Massima shows up, he had better be compelled by Grendel. And that had better be important. That's the last thing I want to say about Massima is, like, if you're going to do it, he had better be crazy because Grendel's compelling him. And everything that happens after is because of that.
Or he is a Forsaken.
And Bayar.
Or he's a Forsaken compelling others.
Yeah.
Or that, yeah. I mean, just a reveal.
Demandred.
A reveal that there's a reason.
That was one of the theories about where Demandred was. That was one of the theories, is that Massima was Demandred. That was one of the theories back then.
I really like that.
For $1.
That'd be fun. Because it would make Demandred a good actor.
Although it would be
crazy.
Difficult because there's no way he would be leading people about the dragon. That's out of character for him. But
because then he'd make himself the dragon.
If there's a Forsaken out there if there's a Forsaken out there who just likes to fuck around, like, is there just a fuck around Forsaken? Because that's something, just going out there and sowing like fucking chaos and shit. Like,
I feel like
Mogedion. I'm going to build this army for the dragon and be a crazy cult leader just because I've never done it before and it sounds like a good time. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of love that.
I could see Asmodean.
That kind of sounds like the Mondred to me, frankly.
We're like listing all
of them. All of the Forsaken are just like, I'm going to fuck around and not do anything.
Well, honestly, if they had done that, they would have been more successful.
Yeah.
I mean,
coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Look at the Forsaken who is hanging out with the Aes Sedai with Egwene. I mean, Arengard
15 seconds
just fucks around.
It takes 15 seconds to put compulsion on. Yeah. Imagine the type of chaos you could have if you had the ability to do compulsion. Imagine the type of shit you could have started just traveling around and compulsing random people. I mean, my God, what could you do? What if you had gone to Master Nori and compulsed him to lose all the money for Camelin, right? Or burn the food. Like,
I mean, that's what they do with the great generals in the last battle.
Yeah, but why didn't they do more of it?
Sabotage your plans. Yeah,
it's the one like major loophole when you add in some like mind control like this.
That's why they don't.
Why didn't they do more?
Because it's OP.
I will also say maybe they didn't do that early on because they didn't want anyone to know that was an option once the last battle started.
They wouldn't have.
Does that make sense?
They wouldn't have gotten to that.
I mean, it's hard for me to justify Grendel not doing this sort of thing sooner unless I consider maybe she didn't want to get caught before the last battle started because at that point people would be looking for it. That's my best answer to that, but I know what you're saying. Does that make sense?
Well, I've always said that the only reason that the Side of the Light won this bullshit is because the Forsaken were ultimately, as a collective, fucking incompetent as shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Extremely poor team like work skills. You know, if they worked together or if any of them had been more like proficient with their bullshit, it would have been over. Like,
proficient with anything. Yeah.
The other side of it, though,
literally
is this,
anything.
though. They think they're more powerful than they are. They're actually matched by, like, the myth is that they were these all-powerful people, and that's how they're portrayed for half the books. Until you start to realize, nope, there are modern-day equivalents that are every bit as strong as they. Maybe a little less experienced. However, there are things they don't know how to do that Nynaeve does, that Egwene does, right? Nynaeve matches most of them, like all but 3 of the female Forsaken. Nynaeve is stronger in the power than. Olivia is stronger than all of them, equal to Lanfear. Like, there's... Like, Sharina is stronger than all of them but Lanfear. So you have...
Well, and they definitely talk about the difference between training and strength. They say I won't risk training and strength residing in the same body. They understand the difference between those two, that someone can be strong and still be kind of pathetic as a channeler.
And why does Mogedion get her ass kicked by Nynaeve multiple times? That's
because she throws the Adom at Mogedion's head and outwits her and kicks her ass. That's why.
Yeah, because Nynaeve is badass. That's a whole...
Because Nynaeve's smarter than Mogedion.
Speaking of Nynaeve, this is Mashiara. This is the book where she breaks her block. That is the big plot point in this book for a lot of people. Like, this is really the character moment where she drowns and then doesn't and gives up.
Right. And gets land. She breaks her block and gets land all in one chapter.
All in one chapter.
Yeah, which is one of the biggest moments of the whole series.
What do you think about the idea that she had to give in for once? That she had to give up? Like, that's such the opposite of what we get in so many fantasy books where you have to, like, just, you finally get strong enough or hard enough or angry enough to get your power. And she's, nope, you just have to give up.
Yeah.
That's really...
I think that Nynaeve hangs on to her anger and her sort of her pride and all of that so tightly because, you know, she's had this lifetime of being a young woman in a position of authority in a patriarchal society. And I think that she honestly just, it's one of those things where you get to a certain point and you can't stop. You can't let it go. You can't ever really let it go, you know, and you can, it's like it's got a grip on you in a way. Like anxiety is kind of like that, I think. And, you know, and you feel like if you surrender to it, like you'll never get back again. And I think that that's sort of what she's dealing with. And the only reason that she surrendered in that moment was because she was absolutely certain she was going to die. And so she just decided, you know what, I'm not going to fight it anymore because this is inevitable. So, you know, take me, Jesus. And And in that moment, then she finally did what she needed to do in order to like experience that moment and that sensation. It's like when you're in a voice lesson or something like that, and you're really struggling with something like, if it's addiction or if it's technique or something like that. And like you finally make that breakthrough and you never struggle with it again because now you know how it feels. And I think that's exactly.
I just realized that this is the chapter where Lan returns and Nynaeve finally learns how to relax. And we've talked about the parallels between channeling and orgasming before. But I really think that if you delve into it and you want to get dirty, or think about it on a sexual level, this is the chapter where Nynaeve learns how to let go of that tension and basically go with the flow, as they say. And that's something she's never been able to do before until Lan shows up.
I have a controversial opinion about the scene. I love the chapter.
Okay, go for it.
I have like a thing about reading about drowning. There's also a moment in Broken Earth where I'm like, I can't read this because it's just too much for me because I don't know. It's
opening
a
book too. I know the part you're talking about.
Yes. And reading about this chapter, your question said, how do you feel about Nynaeve needing to surrender to set herself free? It's such an incredible moment for me because we've been building up to this. We've been waiting for this. We've been waiting, and she finally does it. And she gets herself out, and then Lan is there to rescue her. And it makes me so mad because, first of all, it's crazy that Lan is there to rescue her the second she breaks out of that boat. The second part is there's no reason because she saved her own ass. She saved herself, and this was her moment. And then Lan had to be there to grab her arm and swim her out of the water. And the worst part of all of it for me is she does this incredible thing that we've been waiting for. Lan, for some reason, is the one to pull her out of the water. And then Nynaeve says, oh my God, this is horrible. I look like a mess because my boyfriend is hovering over me.
Yeah,
I am soaking wet. How horrible that I'm soaking wet. Never mind that I just saved my own ass from near death. But
I don't know.
My boyfriend,
Nynaeve, though.
It's not very Nynaeve of her, and I don't like it because to me, the coolest thing is Nynaeve being like, I'm gonna die. And that is the reason she's able to save herself because she is not someone who surrenders. And she finally does it in truly a moment of life or death. It happens. She saves herself and Lan still has to rescue her. And she comes out of the water saying, oh, my hair is wet. I don't like that, even though I love how she comes out of it. Anyway, that's my feeling.
I have a counterpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine that your spouse is a channeler and you know for a fact that they are blocked and they can't channel unless they're super, super angry. And you're a person who can think critically and you know that she's not going to be super angry while she's drowning. And you don't want her to drown. So what are you going to do? Are you going to stand where you're at and let her drown? Or are you going him drown, whatever? Or are you going to jump in and try to extract her from that situation because you do not want her to die and you know she cannot save herself with the power? That's what's happening here. Oh shit, she just went whatever the fuck and she's drowning. I love her and I do not want this to happen. So he goes in. She was almost dead. She was literally like seconds from death when she finally surrendered, blew up the boat, and got out of the thing that trapped her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think she has the energy to swim to shore? Why do you think she even has the energy to get herself to the surface? That's my question.
I hear you. I have two issues with it. The first and the bigger is the coincidence of Lan being right there to pull her out. I think it can be written in a way where Lan blasts that wall away and gets to the shore and survives by herself. I think it's already kind of written that way. She basically would have been floating to the surface if Lan wasn't there. If I were a writer, I would let her drown because That's my second argument. If I were a writer, it's her moment. It's not Lan's moment. She does not need him to save her because she saved herself. That is my
if
big...
She saved herself, by definition, he's not saving her.
Which is, I'm saying...
He wanted to save her. He was trying to save her. She saved herself. He didn't need to be there.
I don't think he needed to be there. I would rather have her come to the surface.
I thought it was romantic as shit.
No, I like it. I know, and people love this scene. This is not a popular opinion of mine, but my opinion is I thought that it was so cool when she got out of that boat. When Lan showed up in the water at the same time to pull her out, I thought it took away from what she did. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm not saying I don't like them together. I love Lan. I love Nynaeve. I just, for that particular moment, I felt like he stole that from her. It felt like it was a rescue scene when the truth is she saved her own ass, is how I felt about it.
I understand your point. I just don't. I never read that thinking Lan saved her. I read that thinking Lan was there when she got out. And like, I just never read it that way. I don't think
he was there to be impressed.
I think he was there. That was there to show Nynaeve got everything she wanted real fast. Like, that was a triumphal moment for her. She wanted Lan. She didn't think she could have Lan.
Sure.
You know, she wasn't even sure if he was alive. And there he is.
Yeah. And I
make you go, wait, is she Ta'Veren?
Now, to defend on that part too, let's keep in mind, if you were even looking at the harbor, which Lan was there looking for her, and the harbor is huge there. He knows what Balefire cut a ship in half in the middle of the harbor. He was out there as he could. I'm just saying, like,
I'm not saying he wouldn't recognize Balefire.
Well, what I'm saying is I think he was about to be going across the harbor anyway. Like, I think he was getting on a boat when he saw it. And that's how they explain the fact that he happened to be there, is he saw it happen and then he made the person go. So
I think he was on the water already.
It was something like that.
He saw her get on the boat and he followed her boat. He was very much followed that cab type situation, yes. He was basically in the cab behind her when she got Balefired. So that's why, and then obviously he was in front of her because she moved back in the river and then he jumped in.
I hear all that, and I don't mean to discount what you're saying, Jess. I hear you. For me personally, I get so excited when she blasts that wood away and gets out. I really wanted her to surface by herself. I just wanted that for her because I thought that was her moment. But I know what you're saying. And I think a lot of people really love that as like the moment when Lan and Nynaeve finally get to come together and all these things are torn away. You know, they're able to just be together.
Well, and I think the way that I looked at it when I read it is more of, it wasn't him rescuing her because she obviously didn't need to be rescued. She did it herself. It's a team effort kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like, they're working as a team now. Like, she got part of the way, he helped her get the rest. And that's a thing that you need in your life as a person. And that's like what your partner does for you, you know? And I also
that's a bit of a theme of the books. The genders are stronger when they work together.
Yeah. I was going to say
it potentially sort of highlights the fact that Nynaeve doesn't like to ask for help. She wants to do everything herself. She trusts Lan enough to let him help her. And I don't think that that's insignificant.
Yeah.
Sure. I like what you're saying about she needs him too. Because what I was going to say was, based on the books, I don't know that Nynaeve needs Lan's help. I think Lan needs Nynaeve's help if we look at the scope of things. But I think that what you're saying is important, that it's nice to see them have a little balance of like needing each other. I think that's important.
Yeah. And I mean, and then they're a team, like from then on out. Like, he rescues her from, you know, she rescues herself, he rescues her, and then they go get married, and they are just a team the rest of the way. You don't have any more of that, like, will they, won't they, unrequited like drama. Like, they're done, they're in. They are a team now.
They're married and they're
I love that for them. Yeah.
I love that for them. I love that for Nynaeve.
Let's see. The next bit I wanted to talk about is, what did you think about the introduction of the Golem, the shadow spawn that can't be killed by a channeler easily?
The first scene is when Matt runs upstairs, yes?
Yeah, because it's the other big point of the book is them getting the Bowl of the Winds, and then that is almost entirely overshadowed by this demon creature.
These crazy things happen. I love that scene. I love when Nynaeve yells at Matt, please go. And Matt won't leave her. And Nynaeve's like, I'm asking you. And it's really like her coming into her position as a leader of like, it doesn't matter who dies downstairs. You need to go upstairs and fix this. And she's such an Aes Sedai there. I love that scene. I like that Matt saves Elaine, although I wouldn't have minded Elaine taking him down herself. But just it's interesting that Matt is the one to face off with him in this first moment and ultimately does what he does.
What do you think? Oh, my other question is the death of Herod Fell by the Golem.
Great ending.
Yeah. And that was the ending.
The ending we didn't get. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, why do you think Samael sent the Golem after Herod Fell as opposed to some other assassin?
He knows that everybody else is fucking incompetent, so they had to send somebody that people couldn't see. Like,
oh.
I mean, I feel like at that point he was pulling out the big guns because God knows the Dark Friends can't do it. They're fucking dumbasses.
Sure. And going off of that, I was going to say, I think as soon as he thought there was a possibility that it was going to be uncovered about the fact that this can't be patched, it has to be fixed completely, what Herod Fell was discovering, I think they sent the best assassin they had. And I think it was a Golem. I think it, for me, it goes to show how afraid the Dark One was of what Herod Fell was studying being found out. Because ultimately that was it for him.
The only problem I have with all of it, I don't think the Dark One actually knew what Herod Fell was. I don't think the Dark One knew necessarily how Rand could do it. And here's why I say that. If the Dark One had known how Rand would need to seal the bore, why would he have even allowed Ishamael to be touching the true power when Rand got there?
He had no idea that the crossed balefire things was a thing, though.
Right. But my point on it is like if that was going to be necessary, you remove that piece. Like there shouldn't have, what I'm saying is the Dark One, if he actually knew, and Samael had no fucking clue. Okay. So why would Samael have sent the Golem? That seems ridiculous. Samael had no idea how to, he thought the Dark One was invincible. Right. Like, I think that would have had to have come from either Moradin or Shaidar Haran himself. Right. I think it's just a plot hole is what I think it is. I think it's a bad plot moment.
So can I fill that plot hole for you?
Please.
Samael doesn't know Asmodean is dead at this point in the books. I believe Samael believed that Herod Fell was Asmodean and sent a Golem after Asmodean.
I think that's a great theory. I don't know that we can ever prove it, but I think it's a great theory.
No. Again, just because of his conversation with Grendel, we know he doesn't know Asmodean's dead at that point. Like, we have him directly saying that. And then, Rand's been meeting with this guy in secret over and over again.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what he was doing with his Gleeman. If it was Gleeman, why not his research assistant?
I like that. I was also going to throw out there to sort of get behind what Nablus is saying as far as the plot hole goes. For me, I don't think it makes sense that the pattern would take into account Rand and Ishamael crossing Bale streams. No. I don't think the pattern would know, if that makes it, quote unquote, know about that. It seems like since Balefire is antithetical to the pattern wouldn't take Balefire into its pattern. But there are certain things, the two becoming one, all of that, the three becoming one. It does feel like, I hear what Nablus is saying in the sense that, like, I am surprised the pattern seems to know about that moment, if that makes sense. Because I would imagine the Dark One doesn't. I don't know. I guess I just think, like, the Balefire stuff can't be a part of the pattern.
It's just a weave.
It's just a weave.
The problem, though, is this.
But these prophecies and the way it works out.
Rand could not have won had he not been able to wield the true power.
That part, for me. Yes, so that's what I wanted to say.
He couldn't have ever won.
And how could the pattern take Balefire into account if the definition of Balefire is it burns through the pattern? To me...
It burns threads in the pattern, but the pattern weaves around it.
But you know what I'm saying? Well, and maybe that's it. Maybe the pattern does understand Balefire and take it into account.
It understands it as wounds. And I feel like it attacks like antibodies, right? Basically, that's a lot of what the pattern is doing. Is Taviran are the pattern's antibodies to the Dark One, and and maybe Egwene is the antidote to
well,
everything.
Balefire presents all kinds of problems. If I balefire you and you balefire me at the same time, do we both come back to life? You know, there are lots of questions that balefire begs the question.
I love that. You both come back to life like 10 minutes ago.
My answer to that is always balefire is a paradox. You can get any outcome. The fact that Matt and Elaine and Aviendha came back to life, I think is entirely random. And that would only happen some of the time. Some of the time,
only because Rand did it hard enough. But here's the other part of that that's kind of dumb. Then it shouldn't have counted that Matt was separated from the Horn because he actually technically never died.
And that's where the pattern has to know about Balefire. It has to know that he died. It has to.
Just saying, like it doesn't follow.
I love this conversation. These are all the things I've thought about.
Welcome to Tangents.
I mean, when you're fucking around with Balefire, you end up with some of the problems that you get with time travel.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Impacting the past and how that's going to change things and shit like that. And, you know.
Right.
It's a big sticky wicket.
Yes, very much so.
So another topic of conversation I wanted to bring up, Elida starting the hunt for the Black Aja that then results in, like Pavara and that relationship. Sort of pull on that thread a little bit.
And the entire name salad within a name salad that is that whole team.
Yeah, all the sitters that
Cian and Sayarin are very different people. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Very different. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then you get the 10 Aes Sedai who are the moles from
Saladar,
the rebel, and they all this is like the core 6, and then there's the 16,
and then there's the Aja heads that had their own thing going on that sort of gets brought in sideways like halfway through. It's so bizarre.
Does the Sayarin stuff start in this book?
Oh yeah.
Is it it's Sayarin, not Cian, right?
It's Cian.
It's Cian. Cian is the white.
It's Cian and Pavara. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember in my first read, this plot for me was like, oh, okay, we got to get through this. Even though I love the Aes Sedai, I wasn't into it. And then I hit a point, I think in book 10, surprisingly, where I was like, this is cool. This is now one of my favorite parts of the story. It's the stuff with Talene. I was like, this is such a cool subplot. I want to read more of this. So it flipped for me. But when it started, I wasn't into it.
Well, and that brings up a good point. That this book, in a lot of ways, to me, feels like the turning point to set up the last battle. Every other book has really been its own sort of self-contained story. You had the first trilogy, and then you had, these 4 Shadow Rising, and then Fires of Heaven, and then Lord of Chaos, and each of those is sort of Rand taking over a city or fighting a Forsaken, and they're very self-contained stories. And then you get to Crown of Swords, which has so many plot threads that start and don't pay off for 3 books.
Yeah,
it does feel like he changed his style of writing in this book, and in a lot of ways, it's yes. And I was going to bring up the term the slog. That this is where it starts, not necessarily because, to me, it's not because it's bad writing or because it's not entertaining. It's because that payoff for the plot threads he starts don't come for multiple books. And so, especially when you have years in between, it feels like you're reading nothing and like nothing is happening. But if you can read them all in a row, you end up getting that payoff sooner. And it doesn't quite have that same sloggy feel to it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense because I feel like every time I summarize chapters, this whole season with the pod, it was like, this sets up book 10. This sets up book 11. Like, it's all set up.
Oh, the guy who recommended the series to me told me that there was a slog that started in book 5. He said it starts to slow down. And I never noticed it. I didn't think that it was sloggy there. The only thing that was really sloggy to me was in Winter's Heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My first read through, I stopped in the middle of Winter's Heart. I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never felt that with Winter's Heart. Crossroads of Twilight was rough for me. And I actually think Path of Daggers to be rough. I like Winter's
Heart. I will probably change my mind when I get to it again. But yeah, my impression, I don't even remember how I felt about it the second time I read it. I sped through that in 3 months and I didn't retain a lot of shit that happened. So I need to get off my ass and read it again.
I feel like the end of Winter's Heart gets me through Winter's Heart and Crossroads of Twilight. Since the end of Winter's Heart is basically what's happening in Crossroads and Twilight anyway. But like the excitement of that, which is earned, like it pushes me through.
In the podcast, we've talked about rearranging the chapters in the podcast and doing the first section of Crossroads of Twilight before we do the cleansing, and just have that in chronological order.
I like that. So we don't know what's happening.
Well, I think it's super interesting. Like, I think it's a really cool moment when Rand finally leaves formatting, and then it's like everybody knows their play. Like, it's like they had this all planned out. Cadsuane takes charge. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. Like, I love that moment for the cleansing. I don't know. I just find it really cool. Like, I like seeing Cadsuane become a badass. Right. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
If she doesn't point and say there, I will be so angry. I don't care if she has a paralysis net. I don't care what else. I don't care if she looks like Cadsuane. I need her to point and say there, and for a fountain of fire to appear. That's what I need from Cadsuane.
Can we mention one other thing, though? How overpowered a paralysis net actually is.
Yeah.
Well, what is she actually using it for, other than detecting?
Please nerf.
She has terangrial that reflect channeling, like Matt's medallion. She has one of those. She has one that detects men channeling. She has a well. She has a shield, a physical shield that basically covers her where she can't be hit with swords and shit. Like,
when does she deflect channeling with one of her?
She doesn't ever use it, but she has one that does that.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That I don't remember that. That's a crazy thing to not use.
The whole paralysis
might
net
only
is
be in
crazy.
the companion.
Right.
Yeah, it's in the companion. And that actually is part of why I think Olivia kicks Lanfear's ass, is because Olivia's wearing it, or wearing Nynaeve's version, right?
The rings.
Yeah, she's wearing another paralysis net, is what Nynaeve has essentially another one.
Nynaeve gives her the rings, and they're an Angreal, no?
She has that. I think she had the rest of it. Didn't Nynaeve had other ones?
Right, but I think she gives Olivia the rings.
She gave her all of them.
All of them?
She gave her the whole set.
I don't remember.
Yeah, because
just
she has
for the
to
battle.
strip down.
Yeah, just
the,
for the battle.
Yeah.
So like, there's a part of that, but it's like those things are totally overpowered. Like, really overpowered.
I love that though.
It kind of brings up. We're on tangents, right? It kind of brings up some of the other
Seth space.
Just
like we're on tangents. Yes, we are. And Seth's like, yeah, I guess we are.
We're 9. We're not. I'm done.
No, it's fine. I was just laughing. I'm sorry.
No. I was just gonna say there's all kinds of other cool uses for the one power they could.
Yes.
Like Quendiar armor and like
where was that?
This one.
So many
weapons.
Why didn't Egwene do a ton of those?
Oh no, I just think little Quendiar bucklers would probably be the most effective thing, really. Lightweight, you can manufacture.
I mean, it's kind of heavy, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. They never really talk about it, right? It's strong, but is it dense? Does it feel heavy? It's made out of steel usually, or silver. Yeah, or what is stone, right? So I don't know. It's one of those things where the properties of Quendiar are not very well defined, other than you can't break it. And it seems that no one picks it up and is like, oh, it's surprisingly heavy or surprisingly light. It seems to be like, what do you think a stone object of about that size would weigh?
Right. I think the fact that the seals were Quendiar made it feel like it was going to be more important in the last battle, Quendiar, or the crafting of it.
I think it was just an excuse to have them survive.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. The harbor chain that Egwene turns into Quendiar, that's never going anywhere. If it's a solid rock all the way through and you can't even use the power to touch it, how are you going to pull that out of the water?
Boy, Egwene really showed her.
Right? Like it I don't know. That whole I hate that, by the way.
I know.
That's not the book we're okay.
No. Other good things in this book. Well, good things. We've got this ridiculous arrangement with the sea folk that is almost entirely pointless, because what do the sea folk do? They help with the bowl of the winds and then they piss off Elaine. That's pretty much what the sea folk do. But this is the book where that bargain gets struck, that excellent scene where Matt is like, you're going to agree to this because I require it. That's a fun scene with him. That the bargain of like, you're going to do what my friends want, and in return, I won't like beat you and tie you onto a horse to do what they want. But then they mostly just like ride around and piss off Elaine. Like, the one thing they do is help with the Bowl of the Winds, which is important. The Bowl of the Winds is an important plot point, but this is the book where the sea folk get introduced in a really serious way, and then they always fall flat to me.
Part of the issue, I think, with the sea folk is they're never relatable, and they're never like they're never somebody like I've never heard somebody once say, I just really connect with Talon, or I really connect with Resta Din, what, like I don't even know how to say their damn name. Like you don't ever connect with them because they're just not likable, they're not realistic, they're not like they're just
there's a moment when you first meet them.
Yeah. Yes, that's the only moment in the whole series you like them, right?
Yeah.
The whole rest of the time, they're just nasty, mean people. Like, and I get that that's a cultural difference, but like, they're never relatable, so you never care. And then they never do anything of importance. So you combine those two things, and they're utterly forgettable, right?
I hear you. Yeah, I think about the scene. It's right after. I'm not even gonna guess the name. When that one Windfinder is turning Nynaeve up, or threatens to turn Nynaeve upside down, until the other Windfinder who's in training gets this right. And basically, they're just torturing Nynaeve during this lesson. And then as Nynaeve leaves the lesson, the person who was in training runs after Nynaeve and is like, I really want to come to the White Tower. And it's this really nice moment because you don't get any of the sea folk saying anything sincere. And to actually get to feel like what they feel and see that they aren't just married to this society. They do want more from their lives. That's a really nice moment for me.
Yeah, I think we brought this up on the podcast that like we see the sea folk at their worst. We see their highest up people out of their comfort zone dealing with our main cast. So like they are not going to be there with all of their nuance. Like these are politicians on a state visit having a very bad time. But still, like you're saying, Nablus, like we don't connect with them. It makes them a very hard plot to care about because we never see them at their best. And yeah, like when Talene runs after Nynaeve and is like, I want to be a novice, is like the most relatable moment. And then she promptly runs away with Morel to go be a novice. And like, bye.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love the Bull of the Winds plot in principle, but spoilers, we're going to be condensing some of the walk and talk sea folk chapters. Those are not going to get full hour-and-a-half episodes. A lot there.
Hey, Seth, are we allowed to do?
Wait, is this a podcast that's good with spoilers? Are you a spoiler?
That's
podcast?
me slamming my head into the desk. Yes, yes. This is a spoiler.
So this is a spoiler podcast. You should put that in your name or something.
Yeah. You should make it more obvious. Because I wasn't sure. This whole time, I wasn't sure if I could talk about spoilers or not.
Yeah, but, it's in the fine print.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel like they're to me for the show. And again, not to pivot that, but like if they're going to use for the sea folk in the show, if they do the sea folk, they need to make them better. They need to make them more relatable, and they need to give them something legitimate to do. If they're not, I just say cut them because I think they're very cuttable at the moment. You don't need them.
I mean, how hard is it to make pirates likable?
I mean, topless pirates.
Just make Bail Doman all of the
topless
sea folk.
Pirates.
Just take Bail Doman's shirt off.
I love that.
Yeah, just make Bail Doman every single sea folk.
everyone.
Yeah, consolidate.
Boobies everywhere, and in the ocean.
And there's so much like awesome potential with them, like an entirely seafaring culture. They've been on the ocean since the breaking. There's so much world building you can do. The Bull of the Winds could be like something only they know how to use. But yeah, it would be so easy to just be like, oh yeah, there's a couple of Browns in the tower that have always made a study of weather. We'll take the bull to them. Like it would be so.
Yeah, they're not needed right now. And that's one of those things like I feel like it's low hanging fruit to cut. But I also think they could do it better. And that's how I feel there's a lot of things in the translation where of the book, the adaptation from the book to the screen, that there's going to be conversations like, do we cut this or do we just make it better? Like Gawain or, those types of plot lines. So anyway, sorry.
If they make me like Golem, I'm going to be so fucking pissed.
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
He's the best character. So.
Yeah, he's just the
Your mom.
best. Okay, are the sea folk the ones, I think it's on Tremalking, a bunch of people killed themselves?
No.
That is the people that they live in this weird sort of concert with.
They're the ones who live there?
The Amayar are basically the equivalent of the Lost Ones for the sea folk.
Okay.
Yeah.
They treat them the
Tinkers.
same way. So it's like the Tinkers for the sea folk, except they take care of them. They still follow the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
The waterway.
Oh, wow. So I just
Yeah.
missed that. Because I was thinking, I wasn't remembering properly, but I was like, I mean, theoretically crazy. Let's say the Sea Folk were the ones to do something like that. It would be great to know their backstory and what brought them there. And we don't have a lot of stuff like that with the Sea Folk as far as what they care about. Even with the Bowl of the Winds, they're like, oh, we know about the Bowl of the Winds. It would be cool to know why and why it matters so much to them. And just more of like what the Sea Folk care about. Because with the Aiel, with the Tinkers, we know what they care about. The Sea Folk, they just love being on boats, which, you know, who doesn't?
Living on a boat is not a personality trait, Sea Folk.
That's the thing, is like, it would be nice to see more of like why they care so much, or if they do.
There's so much that just gets left out of their story that is clearly there in the weird, erratic cultural eccentricities that they have, but we don't have any canonical material.
Well, to be frank, we get extensive history on the Aiel, right? Like we can date the Aiel all the way back to the end of the breaking of the world. We actually get a lot of history on Shara, believe it or not. It's just interspersed. We get almost nothing on the history of the Sea Folk, like almost nothing. So we don't know outside of who they are in the story how they got to be who they are. So I think that's the other part of it, is there's no historical depth to their society that we like we can kind of latch on to. Like we know more about Manetherin than we do like
right.
So
I mean that it's open territory.
It is. And I think there's some fun in that, because that would suck me in a little bit with them.
I would love it if we got some like history from the Age of Legends that's like, this is why these people want to live at sea. And it's something from like the history of the Wheel of Time that shows us why. That would be so cool. Because maybe
they were just like the Aiel. They got sent out with a bunch of Terran Grial, like keep them safe. And that's why they stay on the ocean now. The Bowl of the Winds. Safe.
The Bowl of the
Winds.
Maybe
they were sent to find the Bowl of the Winds.
It's one weather control Terran Grial. They used to have hundreds of them all over the world. That's just one of them.
Yeah.
I find that kind of cool. I love the Age of Legends. Like this was one like regular one, and you guys are treating it like it's the most powerful.
Right. Yeah.
I have a theory that there's another one in the White Tower.
It's not
because they were sent there in their dream.
I believe that makes sense.
My
would like to see y'all good stuff.
Technical difficulties.
How you doing, buddy?
Stand by. Audience, are good? We're not good. Everything's broken. Everything's bad. Well, the recording's
Let's
still
talk all
going,
about
so
Seth while he's gone. So Seth is the biggest.
Yeah, he sucks. He sucks big time. He's a terrible roommate at Jordan Con.
That's right.
I'm dying.
Oh, he's back.
Are you back? Can you hear?
Nope.
It's a negative.
No, he's the worst podcast co-host.
I can pretend to be Seth for a minute.
And he's just generally not very nice.
No. And his dog is.
He is neither kind nor considerate.
Okay, I can hear it.
So that was pretty cool.
Yay!
We were definitely not saying mean things about you.
Nope.
Let's see.
We can hear you?
Yep. Can Discord hear us?
Hey, Discord, can you hear us? I think they can. They were.
I don't think they ever lost us.
You didn't break that. So aside from the regular broken status that we've had this whole time.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
My thing with the Sea Folk is that you have all of these really powerful channelers, and the Dark One breaking the seals on his prison and escaping is a global problem. This is everybody's problem. And like, I know they don't like to get off their boats, but I would kind of like to see the Sea Folk evolve and sort of make a decision as a nation or whatever to be like, we have to go fight with the Kara card at the last battle. And now they have these channelers like who will probably learn shit fast. And then they can like blow shit up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're just chilling on their fucking boats while the world is ending. And it's like, the fuck you think you are?
They're controlling
a bargain
weather
in order to participate in the apocalypse. We're going to need a bargain to make profit. Like, what are you, Ferengi? Like, yeah.
You gray Aja.
At the core of this, though, is one of the problems that I think they had to address the way they did, because here's the problem. There are too many channelers for the forces of the light. There are too many of them. Like, if you look at the Aiel Wise Ones, you look at the Aes Sedai, you look at the Ashaman, you look at the Sea Folk, right? You have all the novices. There are literally 2,000 to 3,000 channelers that if you don't bring in the Sharans, or if they make them all super active, like the battle's over. Like they lose. Trollocs lose. Like there's just too many.
Just make more Trollocs. Like in the show, it's like a billion more Trollocs. And we just get to watch all of them get fucking roasted.
And that's the only way it was competitive is because of the shards. Not again, we're off topic. So back to the sea folk.
I think.
Oh wait, you're talking about a book, right?
The Aiel converted channelers were a pretty massive force as well.
The male channelers?
The male channelers, yeah.
How many Sharans were there in the last battle? Do we know?
Sharans or Sharan?
Thousands.
Again, are we supposed to be talking about that right now? I don't want to go there if we're not allowed. So.
Well, we do. I think have a hard stop in an
It's
hour,
like,
and we still
no.
have the conclusion of the book to get through.
So yeah, that's why I'm like,
okay.
So the next major thing I think we should talk about is Fane attacking Rand and giving him
Oh,
Does that
we
happen
just
to
got
this
into
book?
this. Okay. Seth and Aradia, because we got into
Oh boy. Oh
this.
boy.
Here we go.
Being called to arbiter.
Is that fog? We're talking about monster fog, right? That's where
Yes,
we're at.
monster fog.
Is monster fog Mashadar or a bubble of evil? Because if you look it up online, a lot of sources will say it's a bubble of evil, but it sure as hell seems like it has something to do with Mashadar. That's my question.
We've talked about this before. It does different things from Mashadar. Like Mashadar just like eats you, and then Monster Fog like cuts your limbs off and shit. You're seeing like body parts left around. I always thought it was a bubble of evil. It never occurred to me that it would be Mashadar.
It's definitely Mashadar.
It's definitely Mashadar.
You're
All the
wrong.
sources are
I've
wrong.
never heard that theory before ever. I never thought that was a question.
That
Are you fucking
it
with
wasn't
us?
Mashadar?
No, Fane was controlling it.
Yeah,
that's always
But
been
if you look at Mashadar, if you look at how Mashadar kills people,
Mashadar
it is
isn't
weird.
that Mashadar is not consistent. He was trying to manifest it. He manifested a very particularly physical version of it that was a
Okay.
little different, that was eating people. He was trying, and we even get a line from him that he tried it once before and he wasn't successful. The evidence
forgot about
for the fact that it was a bubble of evil comes from a one-off line in the companion that says that Hanlon, what was the guy who became a lane general?
You are dead, cousin. What's his name?
The guy who was in charge of the White Lions. Anyway, the White Lions that
David
he was in
Hanlon.
charge of
Yeah, David Hanlon.
were
David
killed
Hanlon?
in a bubble of evil. David Hanlon, yeah, outside with that camp, right? And so everyone assumes the bubble of evil that killed his White Riders or whatever his
White Lions.
White Lions. What
Mhm.
the bubble that killed his White Lions is the monster fog.
Okay.
So, but that is an assumption based on a line in a book that I don't agree with, and that's where that evidence comes from. I tracked it down to its
also
source.
wrong a lot too.
And
That's
the
good to
companion's
know.
wrong a lot.
Yeah.
It's good to
Just
hear
wrong.
that other people say there's no way that's not Mashadar, because that is my initial
Yeah.
reaction to it. But there is some weirdness with how Mashadar kills people in the Eye of the World compared to what's going on in A Crown of Swords.
I think
Yeah,
it's
but-
because it has the avatar of Fane to like
Mhm.
generate it. And
Well,
it's,
and keep in mind, it's also not just like Fane also absorbed and controls Mash and Shin. Like he's a combination
Yeah.
of like, all kinds
right.
of shit.
He's like a
Right.
walking
He's not-
bubble of
it's not
evil,
the
but
same
not
anymore.
from the dark one.
Yeah,
Right.
Like,
He is
Yeah.
a distortion of the pattern, all on his own.
He has
He's a bubble of
absorbed
something.
Mashadar abilities and is using them, but it's not out of the box Shadar Logoth Mashadar. It's like a new version. And it dissipates, right? It can't maintain forever. Like he makes another one later. So yeah, when Seth and I talked over this, and it was that was a very short discussion. The information is wrong.
Hmm.
Fane Shadar.
And I get the reaction like it was in a location, but Mashadar's in a location, right? Like it puts its roots down. Like I don't know. And it's very clear that Fane leaves the tent. Everyone goes, "Where's Fane?" Oh, I don't know. He left, and then the fog appears.
Yeah.
He's outside
Right.
generating
And
the
then
fog.
he attacks Rand.
And then he
It's
attacks
like-
Rand in the
And
fog.
Fane and the Dark One are so opposed. There's no way that
Yep.
Fane is going to work with a bubble of evil that's synchronous.
Right.
That's
He's going to be
what it
attacked
seems
by
like.
it just as much
Yeah.
as Rand if it's a bubble of evil.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
so yeah.
Good. Because I always thought the idea that was a bubble of evil was crazy. but it's good.
My only counterpoint that I just thought of is the fact that the slash in the pre-existing wound and Fane in the pre-existing bubble of evil is kind of a cool parallel,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. I just don't buy it.
Yeah. And plus,
well, they do.
like,
I'll add another counterpoint to that. They attract each.
Yeah. So maybe the bubble of evil is attracted to
They
Fane.
attract each other.
Yeah.
well, but then
So that's how Rand gets the idea to cleanse Saidi.
Right. But then counterpoint to that is that they can't be the same evil, right? It's the two different evils. If it was a bubble of evil, it would be the same flavor of evil as is in his first one, because that's the dark one.
No, because Agenor and Belthamel say that it was the dagger that brought them to at the Eye of the World. That's how they discovered it. That was one part. Later,
as well as even the kid and the dark friends that find them. They're sensing the dagger and being attracted to it.
So there's that evil, and that's actually the idea that Rand gets, because he creates the funnel and the two of them suck together and he pulls the taint down into Shadar Logoth.
But I thought the Eye of the World was how he figured that out too.
No.
The fact that men had to die to create
that's
that.
part of it.
Oh yeah, that is part of it, yeah.
See, I would like to see the show have some kind of, not interior monologue, obviously, because it's a show, but some kind of acknowledgement of this is how I came to that conclusion. Because I do think, like you're saying, Nabes, that's a possibility. I also think the fact that the eye was created is a possibility. Maybe it's both things, but I would have liked to read in the books Rand's interior monologue of, got it, this is what has to be done.
They never give us that with either that or the sealing of the board, just because then it would give away the...
Well, no, they did. They told us men figured it out.
Right.
Men explained it. It's fine.
But yeah, I like to me, it feels somewhat weird, that scene with Fane. Here's the only part that feels weird is Rand's characteristics there. I feel like Rand would be less reckless after he just got back from being like it's almost like he feels on top of the world for some reason. And I don't know why he does.
We talk about we talk about it as a manic depressive phase. He goes through this depression and then he succeeds with one thing and then another thing. And then he goes through this massive depression where he doesn't bathe for a week. He thinks he's raped men. He doesn't come out of his rooms. He's just been tortured. And then all of a sudden he
goes to the sea folk. And
then he goes to the sea folk. He finds out that Min loves him. He does this thing and he's like, I can do anything. I'm the dragon reborn, which is such a manic phase after a depressive phase that like it's obvious that he's just off the deep end in terms of doing crazy shit with no real reason, just because it's
the crazy thing is he's actually successful, even though Fane's he destroys their rebellion. Basically, he converts essentially Darlin to his side. Like now again, it's Ta'Veren shit, and then we get to see Cadsuane actually care about it. So I like that scene. I just wondered, it's like, you're right, I love the idea that it's a manic depressive. That makes it make more sense, because you would think Rand would be more cautious after just being captured, not less, right?
I believe that impulsive and reckless behavior are also a symptom or side effect of trauma.
Absolutely.
Which Rand is very much not processing and simply enduring. Yeah.
That could be that could be a piece of the puzzle as well.
Yeah. It's a lot of mental illness stuff that he's dealing with. And then he Ta'Verens his way through situations instead of like going to or whatever.
That boy needs therapy.
Ta'Veren your ass into a therapist.
Well, therapy is talking to himself on the top of a mountain and almost destroying.
Hey, someone's talking back to him, so
I mean, sometimes you just need a good peek.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do like that scene though. So.
Oh yeah, no, I love that scene. That scene with
chaotic
Fane
and fun and terrifying. The half a horse, right? Like, it's so scary.
I hope they don't cut that.
It embodies why I love Fane. Fane is such like a good horror character, and that scene is just pitch perfect Fane, and was such a good setup for the final battle for what he could have been and then wasn't.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am genuinely worried every time Thane shows up. As opposed to the dark one, it's like everything else is literally written out in the pattern. Thane's a wild card, and when he shows up, I'm like, what are you gonna do, buddy? It's not comfortable. Yeah. It could have been the end of book 7. It could have been. I like the stuff with, is it Samitsu who has to heal him and Cadsuane being like, no, you did a good job. It's fun to see all that stuff, but that almost could have been a finale.
And then Flynn walks in and you get the Ashaman who actually saved his ass. Yeah.
It's sort of one of those fires of heaven moments where they give us 2 finales. I don't remember exactly how late it comes in the book, but
I'm pretty sure
intense.
Flynn gets the idea. You know who you can really credit for healing Rand?
Oh, yeah. No.
Lanfear.
No, not Lanfear.
Yeah, Lanfear. she's the one that actually saves his life after Fulmouth. And basically
after
locks
Fulmouth.
it away.
Yeah.
That's where he kind of gets the idea just to lock it in, like rather than
because then Flynn then imitates that basically.
So
And
I was
that's
going to say Dashiva, because Dashiva gives Flynn the idea to learn to heal.
Well, yeah, he gives him the idea to learn to heal. What I'm saying is on this particular type of healing, Lanfear's the one that actually saved his life, and that people don't catch it.
No, they don't, because she shows up and he's dying, and I believe, isn't it? They say Nynaeve must have done something, or else he would have died. Nynaeve swears she didn't do anything, and that's right, she didn't. Lanfear did,
and Lanfear didn't heal him. Lanfear probably used some type of true power or whatever to lock away whatever Shamael did, which is never really defined. So, is that a true power wound?
I think it is, because the darkness boils behind him before he thrusts. It's clear that he's striking with the true power.
Yeah, and
though, because they say those two wounds are working against each other, and I always thought it was the one power versus whatever Mashadar is. But now that I think about it, listening to this, you're right. It wouldn't be the one power. It would be the true power versus whatever Mashadar is.
Right, so there's the essence of the Dark One, and Mashadar is the essence of being mad at the Dark One.
Right.
It's one of the reasons I don't think we ever see Ishamael or Moradin channel the one power. I think we only ever see him channel the true power.
Right.
No. But I think the ability to channel the one power is burned out of him by the true power.
I don't think it's burned out. I just think he doesn't use
it. I think it is burned out. I think that's part of what the flames are.
No, because if he was, I don't think it's burnt out, because Rand, but I can see your point on that, but not to that. But he would never use it anyway, because the amount of the true power that he can wield is supposedly on par with using the Choden Call.
Right.
Right.
He's like all powerful essentially with channeling, except he goes nuts.
Right. Like, why would you have a cookie when you can
that
have
little part?
So to speak. I mean, speaking as for myself.
Which again is one other reason, by the way, why the Shadow should have won. But I could go off on another subject on that.
I think we should at this point turn our attention to just talking over the actual finale of the book, which is the attack on Samael and Ilion, which then spills over into Shadar Logoth and that.
Right. The crossing of the streams and everything. Other than Balal, why is Samael the most not counterproductive, anticlimactic battle in the whole series?
Because I thought he was still alive.
Right?
Because I thought he was still alive. And like the only comparable death in the series is Grendel in book 12, where I was like, she's still alive. And it was that same feeling, but he was actually dead, I guess. That was crazy to me.
Yeah.
Now, jog my memory. Didn't Samael get eaten by Mashadar? They were in Shadar Logoth for that,
it's
right?
It's not clear that he got eaten by Mashadar.
Yeah, I thought he was dead.
Yeah, it's like Rand looks away, and then Mashadar pours in, and he's like, "Oh, I guess that worked." And it's like,
and then we don't even really know. And then later, Robert Jordan confirmed it in a book signing. Yep.
Well,
post like that was it.
I think in the books, the justification is Rand didn't feel channeling, and in book 4, Moghedien escapes Nynaeve by using the true power to warp away. And so it's like, we've already been through this where people can escape without channeling the one power.
Right.
So the idea that he was dead was like, no. There's no way we would have seen it. I was shocked when that was like actually canon.
Yeah, or heard something. Laya screamed.
Yeah.
She got touched by Mashadar.
Yeah.
I was just thinking the exact same thing. Like, why didn't you hear him holler?
Yeah. You know, and it just got them all at once is my assumption, right? But like the whole thing was crazy. You look away and like it hit every like, okay. I think that was Jordan just being like, hey, just because I don't show you a body doesn't mean he's dead, right? Like you can't trust anything. Like,
right. Yeah. And
maybe they are really dead this time. You know, you never know.
You know what? I suppose he did that with Asmodean too, right?
Yep.
Like he deliberately left cliffhanger and then didn't give us the answer. So,
but we knew Asmodean was dead. It said something about when death.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And there was questions to Robert Jordan. Is death another name for Moradin, or did he take him away and keep him captive? Is that something you're doing?
That was legit.
That was legit questions.
Death?
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. No, totally. Is it someone named Death? Is it a parallel dimension called Death? Is it just the Dark One called?
No, it's just
okay. I legitimately
motherfucker shuffled off his mortal coil.
That's another retcon from Jordan when he said Grendel did it, because I think truly Demandred did it, but just saying.
Grendel's that Forsaken that I think probably, I don't know, but if I'm RJ, I'm writing the series and I'm like, this character is becoming more and more interesting. I'm just going to assign her stuff because she's the best. I feel like that might have happened with Grendel.
Anyways, the ending, I like I like that Samael actually put up a fight. And if not for Moradin, Rand probably loses, just like he would have in all of his other battles. I mean, he almost lost to Ravine, if not for Nynaeve showing up with Moghedien, right?
He lost to Bilal without Moraine.
Like, Rand really doesn't beat anybody but Asmodean. I mean, he doesn't beat any.
No.
And I feel like Asmodean, like the impression I always had of Asmodean was that he was just nerfed. Like there just wasn't a whole lot going on there.
Now, the piece I do have a prep with Moradin could have helped. I mean, if Moradin is as powerful as he's supposed to be, he probably could have eliminated Samael quite a bit easier than played out. But nevertheless, like the crossing of the Balefire had to happen, the crossing of the stream.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the plot element of that and like how that kind of creates some type of a connection. I think it's kind of cool.
And it gives us a reason later for having Moradin not trying to kill Rand, because he's like, that's going to hurt me. You don't hurt him. Like, from then on forward, he realizes very quickly that the pain Rand is feeling affects him.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so angry at Samrog when she burns his hand off, because she's all like, he's all like, oh, my hand is killing me because it's not there anymore.
So the only weird piece with the whole Samael thing, I felt like we were building up to this. And I know this was part of Rand's plan, is to build up and make it look like he's going to do something badass and wait for Matt. And then the whole plan is to then enter the city and fight Samael individually. Like, I get that. It just, I don't know. I felt like that didn't play as cool as it probably was intended. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Like, I don't feel like the ending felt like as triumphant as Rand taking this. Like, the end of The Dragon Reborn is like all the things fall into place and this really cool thing happens, right? And then you get even Shadow Rising is probably bad. The attack on Camelin, right? It feels to me a little better. I felt like this just, I don't know. It didn't hit the right notes for me in terms of being like, that was really cool. Like, it was kind of blah. And I feel like this is the one Forsaken death that I usually forget about. Like, I usually forget about the ending of it. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way, but it's not super climactic.
Exactly. Like the crossing of the streams ends up feeling way more important, even though it doesn't get explained or have relevance for like books and books. Mm-hmm. That's the more standout event, is the fact that the Balefire streams crossed. And I do like the part where he actually takes like an army of screaming Saldeans into a city. I mean, that invasion is great, but then they run off and take the city and it's not even on screen anymore.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I'd love to see some shots.
Army of Mongols, like, doing their horsebow thing, and then
he comes back and it's already conquered, and like, oh, here's your city.
Right, and the Council of Nine is like, we surrender, we're good, we're done, and it's like Rand mostly was running around in a fog, accidentally killing people he didn't want to kill, and like having weird quantum dimension mechanics, like entangling his soul, basically. I mean, though. We did learn through the podcast, or I have learned through doing the podcast, that that's how the body swap makes less total chaos. Like the body swap is because of the crossing of the streams, which is important to the end of the series, but also like was one of my least favorite parts at the end of the.
I feel like they were trying to not to talk about this, but I feel like they were trying to subvert the trope of Rand being the chosen one that gives himself up for the world. Like, I think they wanted to show he gave himself up and then he got what he wanted. And that was in a way subverting the trope.
Yeah.
Just a thought. I don't know if it played the way that they wanted, but I think that was the intent.
Sure.
Yeah. And I mean, the Balefire crossing things gives you so many interesting paradoxical questions. Like, It is really cool to be like, what happens if two people Balefire each other's Balefire streams? And what happens?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I think the answer to all the questions about Balefire, like what would happen if you Balefired yourself and someone else Balefired you? I mean, I think we have the answer. We have basically Balefiring Balefire.
Okay, I got a question.
Buffalo.
Here we go. Tough question. I put this on my whiteboard one. What happens if you take a dump and you Balefire it?
Well, you're not Balefiring yourself.
It depends.
So it's not like it goes up into you.
Does it go back though? Does it go back to where it was?
No.
Depends how hard you Balefire it.
Or
it might turn back into food.
I like Aradia thought it was funny. So does it turn back into food after you balefire armor?
Maybe you just like lose the nutrition that you gained from digesting that material.
Oh, okay, so here's the thought. Someone takes a shit, then you balefire them. Because
is the shit still there?
Is the shit still there?
No.
Or does the shit turn back into food?
I think we can
anything they've ever shat is gone.
I think we can legitimately answer this question though, because if that's the case, we know that they wouldn't exist because the saliva that landed on Matt didn't exist.
Right. So none of that digestive jest would have happened. None of the digestive processes would have happened. That food would have never been masticated. It would have just turned right back into food.
So what you're saying is I said I should refrain from balefiring their.
No, they should refrain from balefiring each other after they shit.
I mean, balefire in general, probably.
Yeah. I don't know. There's microbes in there, and they,
Yeah, I mean, their threads are gone, I guess.
And they probably produced the gas that made you fart.
Is
so
this
then,
the direction that you thought the What Spoilers podcast would go when we started tonight?
Tangents go where they go.
I hope this was the amount of tangential you were expecting, because
I didn't expect you tangent into a colon, but
we held back.
Well,
we could go further.
Yeah.
Oh man. There's a reason we can't record a 1 hour episode to save our fucking lives.
I know. But I always think it's interesting that, like, it very much seems like if the balefire streams hadn't crossed, the last battle would not have gone down the way it did, right? The body switching wouldn't have happened. It had to happen. The balefire streams had to cross, not just for Rand to survive, but for things to happen the way they should have happened. What's interesting to me in the conversation of balefire is I would assume the pattern doesn't, I quote unquote, know about balefire, because
I just think you're wrong. Yeah, I think.
I like that. I like that because I think the more I think about it, it does, and balefire is a part of the pattern.
Absolutely.
But the way they talk about it, where they're like, this is a thing that burns through the pattern. It's like, well, it's also a thing that the pattern takes into account. I think that's interesting.
It doesn't necessarily burn through the pattern. It burns threads in the pattern. And it burns them out for just short. So if you've got a thread,
so maybe it's just the way I'm thinking of it. Yeah, maybe
it burns the little spot out. That's all. Right. So they can weave around the spot. Now, and I think that the one important distinction here, and maybe this is the canon answer to why the Shadow can't win, because I'll throw out this this philosophical argument. I don't think the Shadow can win, because if the wheel turns infinitely, right? Then technically, if the Dark One winning breaks the wheel would be broken. That's the nature of infinity.
There's only ever one last battle.
Right.
It's always the same last battle. We see a lot of parallel battles happening at the same time, and that's just every battle from every turning of the wheel happening all at the same time.
So the pattern still controls, like Shamael is still subject to the Tavir being like Rand being Tavir. Mm-hmm. Like the fact, like he is still subject because he's in the pattern. His decision making that keeps him from having killed Rand and Eye of the World when he should have, right? He wasn't able to do it because of whatever stupid mentality he had, whatever, because the pattern could not allow it, right? There's your plot armor for why the Shadow didn't win, because Taviran. But it's reality, though, because I think that's the only way to explain it. But yeah, they would be subject to Taviran.
Yeah, I agree with that. It makes me laugh when a Shamael argues to Rand, you're going to lose eventually because the wheel turns infinitely. So at some point, the Dark One will win. When the opposite is true, what you're saying, Nablus, like, no, if the wheel turns infinitely, it would have already happened. So you're wrong. And yet Shamael is still at his game.
Shamael should be smarter than that if he's that's basic philosophy right there. So
there's an interesting philosophical discussion that basically says, on average, you are in the middle of civilization, right? Most people are born at the peak of civilization, and about half is before and about half is after. That just randomly is most likely to be true, right? And so you can use that to sort of look at odds of your civilization dying out in the next 100 years and stuff like that. And it's interesting. It's a little bit pseudoscience and a little bit statistical bullshit, but
so philosophy.
Yeah.
Speaking is a hard
Make sure that I relay that to my husband, who holds a master's degree in philosophy.
Well, I'm sure I'm going to have the entire
is he on- is he-
white Aja down my throat about
Jess,
that.
is he unemployed then? Is that what you're saying?
Actually,
I'm joking.
but he's
I'm
not
totally
laid off in the pandemic.
Totally joking.
But he'll be the first one to make a joke about being an unemployed philosopher. So it's all good.
There is an interesting aspect, though, to circle back to the actual books about like does the pattern recognize Balefire that Seth brought up with respect to the body swap, which is that because Balefire's Balefire, the pattern ends up confused about who Rand versus Moradin is, and that's why the body swap happens, is because they are now attached as the same soul in like the filing system of how the pattern keeps track of people.
So
quantum entanglements, entangled threads.
Yeah, quantum
Brandon Sanderson explained this a little bit. It's similar in one way to the way the Dark One can transmute souls, but Rand wanted to live and Moradin didn't, and so the soul that wanted to live moved across the bridge between them, and the one that didn't died.
Right.
That was how Brandon explained it. Now, and that was how Jordan explained it to Brandon in his notes. So I suppose to a degree, I think you're right. But I think it was more simple in the sense that they had a bridge between their souls. They were connected and one of them wanted to live. So it moved into Moradin's body, and Moradin wanted to die the whole time. Like that's all he wanted was to die. So he went and died, and that was that. But again, the Balefire hitting each other made that possible because that's what technically connected their souls.
I was going to say, Brandon explained why, but not how.
Right.
And the how is the Balefire.
Mm-hmm.
And the pattern, and there's a lot to go with
Quantum
that.
entanglement, time travel paradox, wibble wobbles.
There's so many of it. Hey, I mean, the series does borderline on sci-fi.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For
There's
sure.
a lot of sci-fi elements.
For sure. Kind of like how Dune is almost more fantasy than sci-fi. Like they're what is this boundary? It's not a solid boundary. It's a fuzzy boundary.
It's the yin and yang of fiction.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I'm excited for Dune.
Oh, yeah.
I am.
Although I'm
Looks
more
like it's gonna be
excited.
rad.
I will admit I want to get past the first book. I think the second and third book are more interesting.
What?
Did you lose me?
Yeah.
Can you hear
For a
me?
sec.
Totally cut out for that
You
whole
turned into a robot.
comment.
Okay, sorry about that. No, I was saying I'm more excited about the sequels. I think the second and third book of Dune are much more interesting.
They are. But,
I've only read the second one. I haven't gotten to the third one.
well,
yet.
they're really cutting this is only half the first book. So
Oh.
like this movie is literally just the half. I think they're going to stop once the Harkonnens take over. I think that's
They're going
the
to
end of the
stop
first
with
movie.
the fears the mind killer
Yeah.
portion, basically.
Yes.
Damn.
That's
Alright.
sure.
So like I don't think we're going to see the whole retaking of the Arrakis thing. So by the Fremen. I think that's the beginning of the next movie. So, but Dennis Villeneuve, I always screw up his name. He's amazing. The visuals look great. And look, the bar is not high considering the last movie was.
Did you see the
It was a
miniseries?
thing.
I didn't actually see the miniseries. So
I thought they did a good job. Like that's the thing is like I think it's underappreciated.
Brian, have you read or seen?
I didn't.
I have not read Dune.
Have you
Or
seen
have
the
I?
old movie at least?
No. I would not watch. I would read it first.
Okay.
That's my jam.
My ex-husband made me watch it. I didn't pay attention.
I mean, the
I
other
remember
movie's
Spice and
terrible.
Slow.
I mean, actually, I take that back. The other movie's terrible, but in a compelling, terrible way.
It's
I don't
beautifully
know.
campy.
Yeah, like
I love that.
Yeah, no, it's good bad.
I like that.
It's got cult
Like-
classic written all over.
think
it.
about this.
Exactly.
I'll give you an example.
Into
If
that.
they decide to do Luce Theron, or they decide to do not Luce Theron, but like all the inner monologue from the Wheel of Time, if they just have the characters read it out loud as an echo while they stand there silently. So think like Perrin's inner monologue. Marcus is reading it while Perrin sits there silently and stares at Fael.
It sounds like wheel talk. I love that. As long as it's done for humor, I love campy.
It definitely was not done for
campy,
humor,
campy.
but
Yeah, so then
No.
as long as it's done intentionally to make me laugh, I'm so into that.
but yeah, the story's great. I think you would like it. Now, I definitely think Robert Jordan took some inspiration.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. This
The
is
first
one
time
of
I read
those-
Dune was after I read Wheel of Time first, and I'm like, Space Aiel? What?
Yep.
And then I
Fremen
realized the
are-
relative publishing orders, and I realized that the Aiel are actually fantasy Fremen, but whatever.
Yes. That's actually very derivative, but
Extremely.
Yeah.
Extremely. It's like noble warriors in the desert with a strong honor code.
that wear
Mm.
shufas.
Yeah, and have an obsession with water. Like it keeps going. And the blue eyes, technically blue eyes for different reasons, but still.
And they're not from there.
Yeah.
Like they're in exile.
Yeah, and then you have the mysterious order of long-lived magic women that everybody hates and mistrusts, but also are at the center of government.
That's probably the most direct.
And the name even sounds the same. Eyes to Die, Bene Gesserit. It has the same like number of beats. Okay.
It's very derivative, although it's not the same after that, but it is very derivative.
No, I don't think anyone can look at what Jordan came up with and can't point to pre-existing books like Lord of the Rings and Dune and say he didn't draw a lot of
or just mythology.
When does Dune come out? It's October, right? No, or is it? When is it coming out? The movie?
Well, we're not up on that. I think is it? No, I don't know.
Someone could.
Here's the reason I'm asking. It just worried me. I was just thinking about this. Are people going to see that movie and then see the Wheel of Time and think, "Gosh, this is just like stealing from"?
No,
everyone's already seen Dune already.
October 22nd is when it drops.
Yeah.
Okay. October 22nd.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
They'll be fine. They're going to see Wheel of Time and get it.
Wheel of Time is such. It's the beautiful thing about Wheel of Time is that it is creative. It's like, hey, the world. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of was his approach to writing. I was like, I like a bunch of stuff that exists. I'm gonna shake it all up and throw it back at you. And it's like, wow, you were inspired by the world instead of making something up whole cloth. I find most fantasy now feels very, like how in futuristic sci-fi, all the sets are like empty and there's just nothing. The houses have no furniture. There's no like trinket. There's nothing. And then you go into like a period piece, even like a mid-century period piece. And like, there's extra clocks and piles of laundry and all that detail. Most fantasy to me feels like that futuristic. Like there's just not a lot there. Like I made pretty colors in one spot. Whereas Jordan is like a period with all the background details and sets because he drew on the real world and just added a couple of frills and rearranged things. But he used the real context of the real world to like
I have one more question. How are you guys approaching November 19th and 3 episodes dropping in what is basically the middle?
That confirmed?
Yeah.
The 3 episodes?
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Are you going to try and binge them all and do content? Are you going to like try and record one by one? Watch one, record on it? Are you going to try and stretch that out over a period of time or dump everything all at once? Nicholas, I'm mostly pointing this at you.
Are my answers public? I will basically for the podcast. I'm assuming we'll just do what we do because I don't.
But you have a plan,
right? For the podcast, I'll be screaming.
for the YouTube channel,
right when it opens, or like the next morning, like because like I don't know if I'm gonna stay up.
I need to take time off work.
Right, like I want to respond properly, like be functional at 3 a.m.
I think that I'll wait until like normal daylight hours to watch. I haven't decided if I'm going to do all of them in one day or if I'm going to do like a day in between. But I think because Rich wants to watch it too. So I need to watch it first to do my like reaction video because that's what my channel is supposed to be. And then I'm going to watch it again with him. So I don't know. It could go either way. It could be a whole day of like binging it, doing a video, binging it, doing a video. I might get tired. I don't know. I haven't decided. I'm going to play it by ear.
Good thing about my channel is I feel very good about the content I put out. I'm very proud of it. And still no one watches it. So the great thing about the show coming out is like, I'll probably try something different since nothing's worked so far, but I'm not worried about it because no one watches my show anyway. So I am just going to try different things, be excited. And I will say after the trailer, I will probably be a little bit more I'll post more reaction stuff. I did most of that on social media and then realized after that I can just post that on YouTube and that counts as a video. So I'll probably do that next time. I got over 3,000 views on my reaction video. I usually get like 17. So that's fierce. Hey, that's what I'm saying. Like, so yeah, I'm going to keep trying new things and I'm not stressing over it because I'm just excited for the show. And it's not like I have any followers to lose. So
yeah, Seth and I still don't know. Dude. Seth and I still don't know what we're gonna do. Like we've talked about it, and it's like, I mean, I know that I want to watch it by myself without a camera the first time. Like that first virginal watch is gonna be just me and my feels. But I think we're gonna have to like then watch it and react to it like pretty quick. like watch it together, like second, third pass, and like talk it through. But yeah, are we going to do it one day? Are we going to do one per day? Like, because I don't want us to get like exhausted and dead by the third episode, but I also want to produce the content really fast because I know I'm going to binge watch 3 the first time. I'm not going to be able to hit stop. Like that will not be an option. But as far as producing content, like that's a lot more work than just absorb.
Well, for your show, like I would be interested weeks later in going to watch a Watt spoilers breakdown of a television episode, even if it doesn't feel like you've put it out right after the episode posts. For me personally, I'd be like, I want to see what they have to say about this because I know they're going to break down in detail, spoiler-wise, what all this means. Or maybe that's a separate video, I don't know. But I would watch those videos weeks later after it comes out because I like what you do as far as like breaking down the spoilers.
I mean, I think we may have to do both, right? I think we may have to do just like the sort of instinctual reaction videos. Like we'll watch it a first time by ourselves, then maybe get together and watch it again and do a sort of a reaction. Like this is what we think about it. Oh my God, this is our first impressions before we see the rest of the episodes. And then maybe we come back to it and do a like breakdown of what's
5-hour breakdown.
Yeah.
Again, depending on a couple factors, my plans are I'm never the first, and I'm not much of a reaction video person, so I will probably not. Gosh, I have to tiptoe on the ways. I will be doing analysis videos, and then I have a couple different tracks that I'm going to take in terms of episodes and the way I break them down. So I'll do a recap episode. I'll do a breakdown, like my breakdown of the trailer video, although I have no idea how I'm going to. My trailer breakdown video was 27 minutes long. And that was
ours was an hour and a half.
Well, for a video where I'm analyzing each frame, you know what I mean? Like I'm wondering how I'm going to do that with the show, but we'll figure that out. But then there are other things like what's changed, Easter eggs, there are things that can be content that can be created. 3 episodes at once is a challenge there.
That's what
Although I think people will still be interested in seeing the breakdowns on an episode by episode basis. It just may not be, I may have to work overtime to get those out fairly quickly. That's all. That's about all I'll say right now.
Logistical tangle that they've handed us 3 at once.
Yes, they have.
That's what I was really hoping for, a November 5th week by week drop. It would finishing
one
at
at
the
a
same time. But yeah.
Would have been ideal for us.
Yes.
Yeah, they should have asked us.
They did. They didn't listen.
This is true.
I think that is about it. To wrap it, are we good to call it a quits? And I want to say thank you ever so much to Tar Valon After Dark as a unit to coming out and hanging out with us for this Tangents episode. Y'all are great.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
It was really fun to talk with you all on our show.
Definitely.
For sure.
Can I just say last thing
you
before
made
bouncing?
Really good tangents. You made very good tangents.
We're very tangential.
We're great at them.
I just wanted to point out before we bounce from Crown of Swords, watching Seth has in the background Crown of Swords cover. And I just want to say, if that's supposed to be Rand, God, does he look good, you know? Like, what a great cover. What a fierce picture of Shutter Logoth.
He's making sure sun's out, guns out. Or something.
I truly can't. It is
out.
the craziest picture on the cover of Crown of Swords. It's crazy. Anyway, I just wanted to say that before bouncing, because, like, what is going on? Anyway.
What is the muscle that's like underneath his tricep? It's like he got an extra muscle.
Yeah, he's got 3 muscles in his upper arm.
Yeah,
one of those.
Boy is ripped.
He worked that way.
Yeah,
he's ripped. He's got a gun show.
I'm pretty sure that's a tendon, man. That's weird. It's weird. His arm looks fucking weird.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. This has been an absolutely fabulous thing. And yeah, for our live audience, we are going to again be off until SpoilerCon, which is the first weekend of October, and then we'll be making episodes like normal through Path of Daggers until the show drops on November 19th, at which point we will be pausing regular book content and moving on to the show until that's done. So that's kind of the plan, but you guys are going to not get any of us until October starts from this point on.
And if we time it right, we should do episode 400 the week before the show comes out.
Yeah, we calculated it out, and that should be the way it goes. So yeah.
Very excited about it.
Well done.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn recording off. Thank you
us out
so
of live.
much. Well, do you guys? Where can we find Tar Valon After Dark?
Tell us
or
where
your
we can find you.
individual your individual projects?
You can find Tar Valon After Dark wherever you get fine podcasts. We're everywhere. Our ass is everywhere.
Nice.
You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Tar Valon Dark. You do that. We post little clips of our commercials and shit, and it's funny. We think we're funny.
We're fantastic. There you go.
You're funny.
Yeah.
Our podcast is different for sure. I mean, we do discussion stuff, but like mostly we do like comedy bits.
Yeah, sketch comedy.
It's hilarious. I love it.
Honestly, if you don't know what we're talking about, you have no business not listening. You need to get on it.
It's true.
Yeah, what the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah.
It's not a podcast, but it's not a podcast.
Right. It's not a podcast, but it's not a podcast. You don't have to listen to it, but you don't not have to listen to it. You know?
Also heard that Nablus only likes people who like that podcast.
Yeah.
I feel
That's
like
true.
I only
That's
like our
true.
patrons. I literally hate everybody, but if you become a patron of ours, I like you.
It's
And
even more
apparently
selective than what you heard.
And you apparently will breed with the patrons.
Well, I will bear their children.
Yeah.
When that becomes,
when the science allows,
Mhm.
I'll have their children. I mean, and it's that kind of love. It's that kind of sacrifice. That's what we do for our patrons at Tar Valon After Dark. Seth, I don't know what the hell you guys do for your patrons. Obviously,
that.
Not enough. Not enough.
Right. That's not true dedication like us. Yeah.
You're right. Go support
That
that.
true dedication is Brian and I's sake. You're like, man, we're not having any fucking babies.
we respect Nablus's dedication.
Mhm.
and you all
We
three
do.
each have your sorry. You all three each have your own podcast as well as having this collaborative thing. You each have your own content that you make. Impressive that you have a joint project and solo projects.
I don't
It's
do very
not
well on my
live,
solo project, so
No lives either. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No.
I do Wheel Talk with Recapacity. I get into drag and do crazy Wheel of Time things. If you want to check that out, anyone listening.
Yeah.
it's amazing and hilarious. And if you're not watching it, you're
Yes,
a
it
dick.
is.
Get
I'm
on
an
it.
insane person. You should take advantage of it.
No, honestly, I
Yeah.
will say this, Brian, because Brian he jokes about not getting beat. Brian is the most underrated YouTuber out there. Like legitimately, the stuff is hysterical. And it's informed, like it's great opinions, even though he's wrong a lot.
Yeah. I love our last episode was the first time we were like, no, that's not how this show is gonna go. And I got so excited about it. I was like, this is the first time I get to argue with people about this. Anyway.
But yeah, no, like Brian's stuff is amazing. And I do stuff on YouTube too. I have been making YouTube content for 3 years now, so coming up on YouTube.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Hey, Mazel.
And your channel is what? Just
Nameless.
nameless.
Yes.
Simple.
Quite creative.
Beautiful.
I'm impressed
also have a
you
YouTube
camped on
channel.
that title from the show.
What's that?
You camped on the Nablus from the show. No one else pulled that one out from under you. That was good.
I was like the second YouTuber behind
Yeah.
Daniel, so like I had first dibs on names. So
Nice.
You nailed it.
You nabs it.
Nabs did.
I also have a YouTube channel. It's called Amerlin Study. I do reaction videos, although I don't do them as often as I should. And yeah, I also have been doing a read along of the audiobooks and do reaction to that while I do counted cross stitch. I call that Stitch and Bitch.
Love it.
I haven't done one of those in a while, but yeah, Amerlin Study.
Nice.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?